All righty, there we go. I'm hoping that everyone can see my main screen. That's our new installation in the city of Edmonton. It's a really unique pool. These bulkheads are really interesting, and they provide a viewing station for a lot of dive and competition standards. Pretty interesting. Very quickly about myself. My name is Bob Thurmond, and I'm the U.S. Marketing and Sales Manager for the company. I've been here since late 2017, early 2018. But the company's been in operation since 2006 globally. One of the things that I'll mention about myself, I wasn't going to do video today. I don't think anyone really needs to see my ugly mug, but I have about 25 plus years in rescue operations. I live in Newport Beach. I was a Newport Beach lifeguard. I was also the data management specialist for rescue operations and lifeguarding for LA County, which is how I came into contact with AngelEye Technologies. And in that role, what I was primarily tasked with doing is looking at data that came out of day-to-day operations in pool environments where we had first aids, submersion incidents, drownings, accidents, violence on deck, and trying to analyze that material to produce yearly reports about how to make efficient decisions based on data. And I think that was eye-opening for me, because what I've come to learn is that we're not just talking about drowning detection when we look at aquatic safety. We're looking at a comprehensive view of things that happen in the water and around our facility. At any time, just remember my email is open to you. You'll see that. I'm going to open up a question and answer screen. So as I go through this, you can just begin to log any questions that you may have, and feel free to also just unmute yourself. So our agenda for today is, I've mixed the order up a little bit, but I'm going to be talking about aquatic safety and its definition, how predictive drowning technology works, and when we look a little bit more about various systems, we'll move on to solutions for active pools. And in this, I include competition, leisure pools, and water parks. Our system is really designed to focus on active pools. We're not in the business of keeping people out of the water unless the facility is closed. We're in the business of education and bringing better skills to active environments with high user loads. I'll begin to make a conclusion about a discussion about risk management and proactive safety planning, and that could encompass the type of systems that we already have in our system and at our facilities, and integrating those into other systems to provide data that allows us to make decisions about whether or not we need drowning detection and facility safety technology at our facility, and also just what that means in terms of our risk management plans and our emergency action plans. And then finally, it'll be open up to a Q&A. So I'm going to launch a Q&A screen, and I'm going to minimize this for me, but hopefully you guys can all see that. And if you have any questions during this presentation, please just begin to put those on there, and I will respond as we get closer towards the end of the presentation. Hopefully there are no questions. So I think we're all here for the same reason, right? We know the statistics around drowning in the United States. When we look at a map like this, which is provided by USA Swimming, they provide really accurate data. This happens to be from 2008 to 2018, and this is the number of drownings that occurred state by state. And, you know, obviously California, Texas, Florida have some pretty staggering numbers. But if you look at some outliers, you also see someone, you know, someone like Illinois, Oregon, Nevada, Arizona. Those are all tracking right now in 2018 to supersede their year-over-year stats for drownings, particularly in children under 14. What a lot of people don't know, and it's because the data is so hard to come by, is that non-fatal incidents constitute something like on the order of about 5 times more than actual drowning incidents. But they still come with a cost to a facility, a cost to the individual, because long-term deficits result in lawsuits and payouts from municipalities and individual facilities that are quite significant, on the order of about $3.5 billion each year. Even more interesting is that we have another 5 times that. We're factoring this out by, you know, 5 times each time, 25,000 accidents, injuries, or crimes that occur at our facilities that oftentimes go unreported. And that's significant, right? Because for most of us, we do not record a lot of this data. Sheriffs show up, they deal with the problem, but we're seeing legislation that is requiring aquatic facilities and water parks to manage that data. They want to know the victim, they want to know the perpetrator, and they want to know any possible witnesses in the area. And sometimes that's difficult because we're very much still on a analog type of capture of that information. But it's changing, and we see legislation coming down that's addressing the need or the requirement to capture that data. So I began with this simple fact, and it's my contention, knowing what I know, is that our aquatic parks, our facilities are looking a lot more like larger water parks. That means we're including a lot more features, slides, wave pools, lazy rivers, and just general configurations that look like more complex pools. To my left is an example of just one of a map of one of my local city-run pools. Has a larger competition area, a lap swim area, but they've expanded to include a lot of lazy river slides and fitness and or hydrotherapy pools that host things like aqua aerobics. It's really interesting because in that sense, our lifeguards aren't any more prepared to deal with the expansion and the complexity of the new look on pools and water parks. So what has changed is the definition of aquatic safety. It used to be, you know, training was focused on standard pools. But now what we've seen is the latest definition is procedures, precautions, and policies associated with safety, and this is important, in, on, and around bodies of water. So that our concern now focuses not only on drowning detection, but being able to provide surveillance and provide information that comes directly from areas around our pools, anywhere there's a risk of injury. And I hope that's clear because it's not just drowning now. We need to take a broader view of this. I'll give you an example. This is kind of a little light relief for everybody. If you've ever seen some of the crazy water parks in action, this is an example of something that it always astounds me. We've got a huge bather load here. Who knows if they've exceeded their swimmer loads, but this is craziness. We've got patrons around the water, we've got tubes, and we've got a lot of non-swimmers and or possible non-swimmers in an environment that looks a heck of a lot more like an ocean than it does a wave pool. So that being said, I'm expanding our definition of drowning and injury spectrum around our new pools. They present new challenges, right? So we're not only looking at drowning and submersion as top level concerns, but we're also looking at things like predatory behavior. It happens. It's happening all the time. AngelEye Technologies is seeing an uptick in the requirement for us to provide aerial video surveillance in order to address predatory behavior, because while it may happen in the water, it usually starts on deck. And that's a huge concern. There's also things that happen on deck like violence, theft after hours, unauthorized use after hours, and of course the general first aids, which we usually do a pretty good job of recording. And you can see this is a good example of the new features that are going in, right? We've got serpentine lines around pools, we've got these faux rock outcroppings, we've got trees, etc. And this makes the job of lifeguards significantly more difficult. But if you look at any Red Cross or American Heart Association training manual, there's nothing really specifically that addresses lifeguard science in a way that's supposed to overcome that. Yes, we still rove and patrol, but by and large, the actual design is making it very challenging for us to overcome that as lifeguards or safety staff, and certainly aquatic managers and risk managers. So AngelEye Technologies, we are a camera-based drowning detection system and an aerial surveillance system that can provide a number of warnings, alarms, and data management for aquatic incidents. As I said, we were established in 2006. We have 250 installations worldwide, meaning we're scanning something on the order of about 2,700 active cameras 24/7, 365 days a year. And our goal as a company is to anticipate submersion threats with high definition cameras and provide facility security through our aerial camera system that can provide those warnings, alarms, and messaging in hotel pools, competition and leisure pools, really high volume municipal pools that see 400 or 500 people you know, over the course of a day, and aquatic parks, which certainly can exceed that. And I point this out because while we can do residential solutions, we are very much focused in a much larger integrated technology system. The ISO norm, which is 2380, this is an international standard, and AngelEye Technologies conforms to this international standards, which quite honestly supersedes anything that we have in the United States. Currently, legislation like Senate Bill 442 here in California, they want pool covers, gates, and fences. Those are all meant to keep people out of the water, but they don't really address the issue of, hey, what happens if we have people in the water? What's being done about that? And similarly, we know that people hop the fence. We know that people get into pools even with covers on them. And when they're in there, what happens then if they breach those primary levels of safety and security? I'm not against any of those type of basic technologies, but what I know is that we are now looking for safety systems, and it's becoming more prominent in the United States, where we can identify a submersion threat within 15 seconds. And that includes being able to have the ability to send wireless alarms either to our lifeguards or roving safety personnel, or at the very least security guards after hours that someone is in the water. On an international level, that means they want an accuracy above 80%, whereas AngelEye requires a 98% accuracy rate within 15 to 17 seconds that anyone that does not reach the surface of a pool, right, they signal an alarm that goes out wirelessly to either a smartphone or a wearable smart hardened watch. And that the other requirement that's part of this is that data storage is increasingly more important. We need to be able to know all the data. How many alarms did we have each day? What video do we have of all incidents? And what images do we have that are stored for at least 72 hours? So our system it's relatively simple in its operation. We have underwater lights and camera. It's a hybrid solution, and it feeds our software, and that's an AI-driven software. And what that's meant to do is identify if someone doesn't make purposeful movement to the surface within 15 seconds. If that happens, we get a wireless alarm and we send the video, the exact location, and time of day to the people that are on deck. This is what it looks like. You can see here the housing. This just replaces existing lights. We've gone to a camera system because it provides total coverage of a pool, much like lifeguard operations have a overlapping zone of coverage. And quite frankly, underwater cameras provide unparalleled accuracy. It's high definition video in color, and it's been recorded 24/7. By the way, this is just the housing. So in most instances, if you have lights in your pool, this just plugs into the existing light, and we feed this through to provide both power and data. If the algorithm receives a potential threat, if it interprets a potential threat, we actually send out, and these are the 3 modes of the watch, we actually can see what's happening underwater and the subject at the exact moment it's happening. So during, say, a resting period, all a lifeguard would see is time of day and have the ability to set a manual alarm. Because we do have fights that break out on deck. We do see suspicious behavior that would require someone to set a manual alarm. If we do get a warning from our system, it actually, as I said, it shows the victim, it shows the exact location in the pool just by touching the face of the smartwatch. So we can see if we've got multiple pools, this could be our dive pool, not our competition pool or a training pool, but we can see what zone it is in our pool. Any lifeguard that receives this, we're presuming that a lifeguard immediately responds to that area, but any lifeguard that is in close proximity can either confirm or close out an alarm. If they close out an alarm, no harm, no foul. It gets logged as a data point. However, if they confirm an alarm, there's an active incident where the lifeguard is in the water and perhaps puts hands on a victim. That starts a series of messaging, and that messaging goes directly to an aquatics director, a risk manager, a chief information officer. It just depends on how we set this up. And it can also go out to local EMS if that is part of your emergency action plan. The point here is during an emergency, all lifeguards and first responders get the information that matters most. We want to be able to see what's happening. We want to be able to confirm it. We want to know the exact location so that we can coordinate a response. I hope that's clear. So the other part I mentioned is our aerial cameras. Our aerial cameras are situated around a facility, usually indoors, so that we can see our patrons come in and come out. And if we have pools that are in non-operational mode, we don't want them to get around or in a pool that is not being actively watched by lifeguard staff. And this includes after hours, right? So we would like to be able to have someone get to a pool after hours if they climb over a fence or to get through doorways or somehow gain access to a facility. We know once they're in there, there's only a few possible outcomes. They're either in the pool, they're there to steal something, create some sort of vandalism, or just horse around, which in any case is something that we need to address so that we can make the appropriate changes for our facility. This is a good example of an after-hours digital fence that we put around a pool. If someone were to cross this threshold, we could get lights to come on, a pre-recorded message, and believe me, that deters people almost immediately from getting in that water. So, I'm on to the risk management and aquatic technology systems. This is a little bit more of a complicated graph, but what I'd like to show to you is that on one hand, we have our primary defenses. Fences, covers, and door alarms are being recommended by every major aquatic safety institution that I know of. World Health Organization, American Heart, Red Cross, NDPA, everyone is gotten behind the idea that in order to secure an inactive pool, these things have the potential to work. Basic video surveillance is going to be far different than a drowning detection system. I don't know how many people have seen an incident at, say, a YMCA where we see someone on an active pool deck, right, that is submerged, and the lifeguards and or parents in the area don't spot that victim for another 3 to 4 minutes. Well, during that period, we know that technology would have identified that within about 15 seconds. That's important because anything more than 20 seconds, you all know that a submersion becomes statistically a drowning event. But there's all kinds of numbers of other technologies that are in place. And we get closer towards a drowning detection system like AngelEye, which is a predictive technology, which really supersedes all of these systems in terms of its ability to provide advanced warning. And I think importantly, we would like all of these systems to be able to communicate with one another. We want to know that our drowning detection system speaks directly to lifeguard operations. We want to know that it's able to turn on smart lighting. We want to know that we're able to provide external messages that we've got an incident on a pool deck. And obviously, all of this we can connect together through electronic device control, which is just another feature that goes well beyond drowning detection. And I can provide these slides for you to peruse. So this is a little bit more of a somber example of a passive video incident. There are two. I've kept them short, but 4-year-old girl, unattended area, and just walks off a short ledge. Now, the struggle that I have with this is not only is no one around, but we've got a passive surveillance camera that's providing video that's going to be used as evidence against a facility. It doesn't help anyone if it's not tied to any alarm system. And unfortunately, that's all too common that people are shunning any type of video surveillance because they know that it works against them. Little known or lesser known is the fact that there are the type of the AngelEye product that is able to provide warnings to get someone moving in that direction. The other one that I have is also quite interesting because we've got a lazy river in a hotel. This is remarkable because lazy river, very shallow water. Individual is stuck in a grate with no lifeguard on duty for a full 8 minutes before there's some response by everyone. And they had no pump control on this, so that even if they had a manual alarm that was on a wall, it probably wouldn't activate a shutdown of their pump systems. AngelEye Technologies can be hardwired into those pumps to immediately deactivate during the event of a confirmed incident. And remember, someone can see the active video remotely if they're an authorized user. So the goal of our underwater and aerial systems is to provide accident, drowning detection, crime deterrence, training and education for our lifeguards and for our facility staff, and certainly the logging of all of our data management and messaging. Okay, so the outputs here, these components are able to draw down video, images, alarms, facial recognition, occupancy load, remote surveillance. They're able to report on their own health. If a camera is not functioning properly, an AngelEye technician would know about that almost immediately. We also get on-demand reporting and documentation, which year over year, we want those to operate just like any of our other equipment at a facility. We want to know that our pumps are operating, how long they're operating, and based on their cost efficiency, whether or not that was a wise investment, and our integration with our chem systems. AngelEye does work with all of those. So primary accident prevention and secondary passive accident and deterrence is our main goal. I use this very simple graph to make a very simple point. We can spend more money on lifeguards, but we know that lifeguards are subject to human error, and that those lifeguards, they suffer from distraction, fatigue, inexperience, noise, ambient noise. It's a real challenge. So you could put more lifeguards on deck, but it's not appreciably going to increase your layers of safety. Technology now holds a major key to increasing layers of safety, right? We've come to expect this in our homes, in our businesses. Technology is providing a view when we're away from our home or we can't see everything that allows us to make decisions about our safety needs and requirements. So why are we slow to adopt new technologies? In, on, and around the pools, right? Our design is outpacing traditional lifeguard science. Lifeguard science really hasn't changed much in 40 years. Yes, extrication techniques have changed. Yes, CPR has changed. Yes, some equipment has changed. But realistically, we're depending upon our young men and women to do a job that is of the utmost importance. And in certain indoor and outdoor environments, that becomes a real challenge. Glare, ambient light, noise, they all have an impact. And as I said momentarily ago, in an age of the Internet of Things, we really have come to expect that we have visibility into our homes. I know when my son comes home, with a new girlfriend, because I see it on my ring. I know when packages have been delivered. I know that if I'm remote, I can activate a speaker and say, no, thank you, not interested, and I can be hundreds of miles away and at least provide a primary level of safety for my unoccupied home. So why not in our pools? And there are probably a number of reasons for that. But risk managers have a role in this. And I put the question to you all is, why do risk managers really, really want to know that a solution exists? Or is the calculus stacked against technology, right? It's, if we install cameras, what risk do we face? Well, that's obvious with simple cameras, but smart technology and advanced drowning detection is taking over and answering some of those questions. All right, so questions from anybody, and you don't have to write them in. We can take it online as an audio, but I usually organize around these three basic areas. Cost, it's one of the first things I get. What does it cost to implement at our pools? Technical details. Some people want to know a little bit more about how the technology works, and sometimes that's best to have a follow-up email conversation with y'all, or a demo of the actual system at work. And then I also get some questions about what does AngelEye do to help facilities implement and partner in areas that either have the capital flow for that, or they're in areas where it's more challenging, right? They have to be creative with funding for something like that. So I'm going to put it out there to you. If you have any questions, I'm going to give it a full minute, and you can unmute or you can write them in. Sean, can you hear me? I think
Hey,
you
Bob.
should on your end. Let me see. Okay, you're unmuted.
Hey, Bob. Sorry about that. So I
No
had a
problem.
question on the number of relays that you can connect to. Is there any limit to that number, or if you wanted to connect to a controller and a relay to an alarm and to lights and to police, can you review some of that?
Absolutely. So what we have is, it's called, we call it EDC for short, but it's electronic device control. And really what we do is we piggyback on a system. So for example, a pump controller, heater, and or anything like that, usually there's some additional inputs in order to expand the system. And we've been able to work with a number of controllers that allow us to feed information about when to shut down a system. And because it's expensive to shut down a system, we usually say we want a redundant confirmation of an alarm. So a lifeguard may trip an alarm, but we want the facility manager in that instance, if we're going to do a full shutdown of a slide, we're going to want a secondary confirmation that we actually have an incident in progress before we shut down a slide pump entirely. And so we've got almost infinite levels of connectivity.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I'll address an issue with cost because it comes up. People want to know, hey, I've got a 25 by 50 meter pool, and they want to know, oh, you know, what's it cost? And I always say, well, this pool, this happens to be a really cool zero depth entry at a water park that's very popular here in Southern California. And they've got several of them on site as both hotel and adult leisure pools, right? But because of the serpentine nature of this, the number of underwater cameras that we recommend is different than overhead. That's the same thing when it comes to competition pools. We can only run usually lights in a competition pool along the sides. So we have to have enough coverage to capture 100% of the pool. So this may only require 5 lights. This may require 15 lights. And if they're already in there, that's even better for us. But then every once in a while, we'll also get an entryway that's sort of out of visibility from anybody. And this could be 3 feet, it could be 7 feet. And then in something like this area, obviously we've got these areas, and this you can see glare here. You can see those dark areas, and this looks like to be a really long area that I don't even know if a lifeguard could walk on. So presumably a lifeguard would set up, a position here, here, maybe here, but we can see the inherent challenges with having natural light and incandescent light overhead that create some challenges for our lifeguard staff. So a couple more things. Privacy is a huge issue. Privacy has now come up as one of those things where, when we put video surveillance up, at the bare minimum, we have to let people know that for patron safety, this facility is being surveilled by video. But safety in most instances trumps individual privacy. Now, what we do to accommodate that is that we can eliminate or scrub the system after a prescribed period of time. So let's just say nothing happens over 72 hours. Okay, scrub the system. But little Johnny may be using a pool on Tuesday, and then the next week, mom and dad want to go back to do that free swim or playtime, but little Johnny doesn't want to go back. They question why, and they've come to find out that there was some creepy person touching them during periods of operation. That is something that we're seeing a lot more of right now. So we can store data 10, 15, 30 days and hold that, both video and images, that are only accessible to authorized users. That data storage component is always set by the facility. We don't do any monitoring. We do not do any evaluation of incidents. That's all up to your facility, your risk managers, your sheriffs, and anyone else that would be involved in the process. And then the last part of this, first of all, we will operate on a closed system. This is another part of the privacy. So we don't piggyback off of your network. We actually set a closed system that only stores data on an on-site server. And that's, we provide a cloud backup service, but realistically, this is all housed on site. It's encrypted, and it's only available to a handful of people that have authorized access. This last element, there's always a question about, how do I prove the efficiency of the system? How do I prove its effectiveness? Well, we can get on-demand reporting of how many alarms are sent each day. We can get an overall number of how many are confirmed or closed out. We can also see periods like high times when we have a much more active type of warning coming out from the system. So we can configure it to when we've got high user load to warn us say anywhere between 2 and 5 per day. We don't want to get any more than 5 because we do not want to promote any more user fatigue. We just want to promote communication. So any questions on this? Okay, I'm going to move on. Partnering with AngelEye. The goal of AngelEye in the United States, we're relatively new to the United States, really coming in at the end of 2017 and 2018, but we've been adopted by LA County as the largest county in the United States to address more than 70 of their facility safety concerns. They're a go-to when it comes to the evaluation of a system, and they did an independent verification of the requirements, the features of several other companies that don't have all of the features and don't provide the capabilities that we do with our underwater system. So I encourage you, if you have any additional questions about how to go about a needs analysis and the questions you should be asking your internal staff, I definitely have a list of how that works. And then independent verification. It never hurts to get an independent verification of our system and your facility. That's sometimes the first order of business. But also a real concern is budget and capital planning. Look, we all want, you know, in the perfect world, we would all want the system at our pools everywhere. But there are oftentimes capital flow issues with the facility. AngelEye is very much focused on implementing at facilities that do have a high visibility within the community, high user loads, institutions that are able to assist us in bringing the word to the rest of the country, where, you know, we feel it is important to educate as well as protect. And we, you know, we embrace that opportunity. So we've set up a number of different ways to go about creatively financing a system like ours. In the case of something like an installation that we had with that Edmonton build, it didn't come from Aquatics. It actually came from their IT department in the city. In a municipality like Los Angeles, it came from a lot of their new projects, and they've got a smart technology initiative. But really, what we do is I usually communicate with the thought leaders and decision makers for an on-site evaluation, or at the very least, a schematic of the pool, some basic information about hours of operation, if you have lights, if you don't have lights, and how many people, lifeguards particular, are on deck. Remember, we do hotels, and these people don't even have to have lifeguards, which to me is frankly scary. So somewhere back there, risk managers said, well, we're just gonna, you know, roll the dice on this. But you know, the laundry list of incidents that I can give to you, we only have to look to Murrieta here in California, $13.1 million payout for drowning that happened in a learn to swim class. Rose Bowl, molestation in the water, $12.1 million. You know, I look at Florida, you know, we've got several drownings that just occurred, and I guarantee you, because this person breached 2 fences and got under a pool cover at night with video surveillance but no alarms, they're going to be facing a major judgments. So this is an actual camera. I'd like to do live time, but I always ask for permission to bring ourselves into that. But if anyone is interested, and I hope you all are, contact me, and what I'd like to do is extend this proposal to actually show you real time of a video, of the real-time video from a facility. And I can do that around the world. And it's one of those things that shows the real power of, you know, of the system. Again, here's my sobering statistic of the day. 2019, this is just to date, delivered yesterday by USA Swimming. These are deaths, children 1 to 12, age and location. This is a frightening image right here. So, we're looking at a real challenge because this is just drowning. This is not submersion. This is not accidents. This is not violence, vandalism, or crime, or predatory behavior. It's just fatalities. And this to me is shocking. I hope you all have learned something from a little bit about the technology itself, how it's being implemented, where it's best utilized. My personal contact information is right here. I'm going to send a quick chat to you all right now so that you can cut and paste it if you would like it. And I'm also going to send you, this is going out to everybody. There's my contact information, and I encourage you to look at the other 2 links. We have a virtual reality tour of the AngelEye lifeguard system. It's an excellent way to see the system and all its components as they are meant to function together. And it's a very cool 3-dimensional interactive experience that shows an actual submersion incident, and you're able to move yourself around and look at the individual components and how they work in conjunction with one another. So, any last questions? I encourage everyone to unmute their microphones and sign off. Let me know. I'd be available to you anytime, and I think that would be great.
Hey, Bob and Sean, thanks for letting me listen in and having some great information here.
Yes, I appreciate it, Sean. I thank you for your questions. And then, if possible, send me your contact information, and I can also, I've had at least one other question about some additional materials that can be archived, shared, logged, and presented to other stakeholders in a decision like adopting a drowning detection solution or an aerial system.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, everybody, we're at 11:22. We finished up a little bit earlier. I hope that everybody has a wonderful 4th of July holiday and is safe and enjoys the water.